This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America for this Thursday morning. I'm Seth Merrill. Thanks for joining us here. Snowy Thursday morning. It mentioned it on the Handicappers Report earlier. You don't really have to, if you're going up to the local supermarket or out to get the newspapers, you're going to make it okay. But it was messy on the throughway. So if you got a trip planned, you're going to head to Albany for some shopping or something, maybe wait a couple of days because it's supposed to be nasty tomorrow too. But the driving was a little bit slow today. So if I didn't have to go out, I wouldn't head out. And as I said earlier, a great day for a Capital Bets wagering account. Sit in, fire up the computer, sit in front of the computer and make some bets, or sit in front of the TV, watch Channel 12 and fire up your Capital Bets account via the phone and just enjoy some good racing this afternoon. Put on a fire in the fireplace, brew up a little cocoa, and you're all set. Coming up on today's Racing Across America, Thursday morning means a visit from John DeSilva, racingwithbruno.com. Always take a look at some of the New York action on Thursday. We'll do that. We'll get a little weather update from John as well and see what things are like this morning down there in the New York area. We'll also take a look out at a couple of stakes Saturday at Aqueduct. Similar situation when we're joined by Dave Rodman from Laurel. Going to take a look back at a couple of stakes they had this past Saturday. And get some of his thoughts. She's Ordained in joint custody winning down there. Particularly, I'd like to hear what he thought about joint custody, the 2-year-old, who's been on the Maryland circuit, but I think has the potential to maybe move out and show a little punch in the 3-year-old season. We'll see, but we'll get Dave's thoughts on that. Also, we are going to take a look at some of the stakes action they have down at Laurel on Saturday. They have, I think, 4 nice stakes races there that, again, we'll preview with Dave when he comes on. Speaking of stakes action, New Year's Day yesterday, a little holiday, so some of the tracks around the country were running some stakes. Just wanted to touch on those here. Affectionately yesterday down at Aqueduct for 3-year-old and up fillies and mayors, $100,000 purse. I had as my assignment Aqueduct yesterday in the Handicappers Report, and when I looked at this race, I said it's a small field, but a very competitive field. I think you could have made cases, certainly for my top 3. I put it centering Royal Lahania and Teen Pauline. But I said I wouldn't argue with somebody juggling those up. And on Teen Pauline, I commented this was a horse that had shown some flashes and just quite hadn't lived up to it. And yesterday kind of came through and got the job done. It was funny, I was listening to the pre-race prattle from the NYRA simulcast signal, and Jason Blewett said essentially the same thing. Teen Pauline kind of has shown a couple of races that seem to say, okay, the horse is now ready to step up, and just hasn't done it. Been potentially a little bit disappointing. It's disappointing, as you can say, for a horse that has won over a couple of $100,000, but seem to have the potential to be a little bit better than we've seen so far. Well, Teen Pauline finally in a scratch-reduced field of 4, and boy, it was a tough day as far as scratches down at Aqueduct. I think the opener had 3 yesterday. The stakes race, the affectionately goes with 4 after a scratch. But Teen Pauline gets out there and leads them all the way around. Centering, who again I had on top, loomed at the top of the stretch, but when the running started, Teen Pauline kind of spurted away. So Teen Pauline for Pletcher and Stone Street Stables gets the job done. First win since that grass start back in August at Saratoga. So Teen Pauline, interesting to see what they do with her now next time out. Will they stay up in New York and kind of shop around for some spots for her now that she's got a little win? Maybe her head's screwed on a little bit better. So it will be interesting. As I say, I think this is a horse that has a little more talent than maybe the record shows, and this win may move that one in the right direction. So Teen Pauline gets the affectionately yesterday. The Interboro, I liked Lion DNA. That was my top pick, and so coming down the stretch, perfectly happy to see a nice winning move. Chucky Lopez and Lion DNA get it done as the 5-2 second choice yesterday in the Interboro. The favorite in their Delightful Quality 8-5 favorite, winds up a disappointing fourth, but it is Lion DNA, again, with Chuck Lopez getting it done in the Interborough. Out at Gulfstream, there was a couple of nice stakes races yesterday as well on that New Year's Day card. The Voodoo Dancer, nice little turf stake for 4-year-old filly, $75,000 purse, and it was mostly interesting because of Tapacat, a horse that early in the career showed some nice promise. Maybe a little bit like Teen Pauline, although this one had 3 wins under the belt, and that included a maiden special, an optional claimer, and a little bit of a stakes race. So this one had a grade 3 on the resume already, but that grade 3 was February of 2013 down at Tampa. Since then, it started, 4 times and didn't have a win. But Tapacat, again, kind of similar to Teen Pauline, had shown some promise and maybe just hadn't lived up to it. So it'll be interesting to see with this one. This one went off as the 4-5 favorite, did Tapacat yesterday. Got it done under Joel Rosario. Nice late run over She's Spooky. So again, it'll be interesting to see what they do with what Bill Mott decides to do with Tapacat next out as well. Now that, again, once they get a win, maybe there's a little confidence boost and they can kind of move forward. So keep our eyes on Tapacat. And then finally, first Derby of the year. We talked about this race yesterday. And Gulfstream Park Derby, January 1st. When the calendar switched 2012 to 2013, the 2-year-olds became 3-year-olds. First Derby of the year. Seemed like a field of horses where the connections were kind of trying to figure out what they had. It is General A-Rod getting it done, the number 9 horse with Joel Rosario on board. Stuck out there in that 9 post position. That was the outside post position yesterday, but does get it done by a head, 7-2. The betting public was kind of undecided, let's say, first 4 positions. The favorite was Pablo Del Monte, and that one, 5-2, winds up finishing 4th. But then there was 3 other horses at $3.80 odds, all 7-2, but they were all exactly the same on the subsequent chart odds board. So the top 4 were kind of all right in the same mix. General A-Rod, however, does get it done. And General A-Rod, trained by Mike Maker, and Mike Maker said that from here they'll discuss what's next, but Maker seemed to think that Florida was probably the place where they would stick. So look for this one to progress potentially along the 3-year-old trail down in Florida. But again, they hadn't made any firm decisions there. The horse I liked yesterday was Aaron's Orient in that race, who wound up finishing 5th. Again, another one of those horses at that 7-2 price. Showed a little punch early, but then just faded. This is one I'll be interested to see what they do with next, just because will they regroup with this horse now? First 3 starts of the career was trained by Steve Asmussen, broke the maiden at Saratoga, then goes out and wins a little stakes race at Remington Park, moves subsequently into the barn of Todd Pletcher, and tossed in a dud last time in Maryland and Laurel, but had a lot of excuses in that race. Not the case yesterday in the Gulfstream Park Derby. So again, Aaron's Orient, be interested to see what's up next with that one as well. All right, some of the news. We've talked over the past few days about some of the articles that have been out looking back at 2013, kind of recaps. And Mike Veach actually in the Saratogian had 3-part year in review columns. He's had 3 different columns over his last 3. He's typically in on Sundays and Wednesdays in the Saratoga. And the last 3, as I say, he's done some year-end reviews. But his most recent column, part 3 of his year-end review, he brought up an interesting, he has a few different topics in here that he thought were highlights of the year or lowlights, as the case may be. But one of them was a very good one that kind of slipped under my radar a little bit, but I'm glad he brought it up. The sophomore fillies. And I said the last few days, going back to Sunday when we really on this show had a little segment, Bick and I, talking about our highlights of 2013. I said the 3-year-old colts, the 3-year-old boys, for me that division, early in the year, through the Triple Crown Trail, it became kind of undefined. And so you may think, well, weak crop, maybe nothing to be excited about. But I thought race by race, it was a great story. Orb in the Kentucky Derby, Oxbow with the connections in the Preakness, Verrazano after the Haskell had so much potential. So I thought there was great stories all year long. with that 3-year-old division. But Veach brings up the 3-year-old fillies. That was a good division as well. And as far as strength, probably stronger than the 3-year-old boys. But, you have horses like Beholder, who I think is going to wind up winning the Eclipse, but doing so by, even if it's not a narrow margin via the vote, I think it'll be a narrow margin in people's minds over Princess of Silmar. But then you toss in Emollient and Closed Hatches as well. This was a pretty nice division on the top end, the 3-year-old fillies. So I'm glad Mike mentioned that, because it was certainly worth recognizing. Again, those top 4, Beholder, Princess of Silmar, Emollient, and Closed Hatches, who all during the year, particularly the top 2, but even Emollient and Closed Hatches during the course of the year, showed some very nice talent in a few different races. Mike also mentions the casino vote in New York. There was some controversy there. If you read the papers, you certainly were clued into that, and I don't think that controversy has ended, because now the okay has been given to casinos, but now it's going to be deciding where they go. So that's going to be interesting to watch as well, and how the New York Racing Association responds or doesn't respond to potentially Saratoga trying to get a casino. Again, we'll keep our eyes on that. This story, the casino story, is not over. And then Mike also mentions the Breeders' Cup as a highlight for him in 2013. Also of note, there was a, on the 3-year-old scene, article in the Daily Racing Forum notes a slow breeze from Cairo Prince. And Cairo Prince, if the name rings a bell, but you don't remember, this is the easy winner of his first couple of starts, and then just missed behind Honor Code in the Grade 2 Remsen. So Cairo Prince, coming out of those first 3 starts, particularly that near miss in the Remsen, was a 3-year-old, 2-year-old, now 3-year-old that a lot of people will be focused on, but worked down at Palm Meadows, 51.9. So certainly that was not what Kieran McLaughlin wanted. He said as much in the quote from the article. He kind of blamed it on the workhorse. They said they had a workhorse that really wasn't doing quite what they had hoped for, but they're pointing for the Grade 3 Holy Bull down at Gulfstream Park. That's January 25th. So got the better part of, 3.5, 4 weeks left. And McLaughlin said Cairo Prince worked fast last week. They're going to get another work into him. They're going to make it the kind of work they want. And McLaughlin says that they'll get a different horse to work them with. So Cairo Prince, a little bit of a slow work that might be a concern, but we'll have to keep our eyes on that one going forward and see if this next work they have planned, this horse bounces back. I would expect he would, but we'll keep our eyes on the work tab as Cairo Prince heads to that Holy Bull coming up. Application has been submitted, speaking of casinos, for the casino at Suffolk Downs. That has been a little bit of an ongoing story up in Massachusetts. They've submitted the application, but again, that's still not a done deal. They're still, as far as I know, deciding where to site the casinos in Massachusetts. So Suffolk hasn't necessarily been picked as a site, but the Mohegan Sun folks who are teaming up with Suffolk have submitted a plan, a project that would be a $1.3 billion project. It would include over 170,000 feet of floor space, 5,000 gaming positions. There would also be the shops at Mohegan Sun, Massachusetts, that would include retail, fine dining, entertainment. So this is potentially going to be a boon to Suffolk, but again, it's not a done deal. I found it interesting, however. The casino application, submitted it on December 31st. Mohegan Sun delivered 2 copies of the application to the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. 15 boxes, each copy of the application comprised over 16,000 pages. It's all about the regulations, folks. So, but there has been a application submitted for a casino, what sounds like a blockbuster project potentially at Suffolk Downs. Year-end numbers are in. We mentioned some of these yesterday at various venues. The average handle up at Penn National in 2013. Pretty good, a 6.4% increase. That's a pretty good number. I think, I won't say a lot of that, but I think it was certainly helped by that nice innovation that Dan Silver put in. Dan Silver, who had been at Penn National after having started the career at NYRA, moved to Penn National, now back at NYRA. But Dan put in that interesting pick 4 that combined the last couple of races on Thursdays during the Belmont meet, last couple of races at Belmont with the first couple at Penn National. And I think that just tended to perhaps, certainly on the Thursdays they did it. And when the Belmont meet ended and that bet ended, they were able to go back and add up the statistics. And certainly it helped on Thursdays at Penn National. But I think what helped on Thursdays probably subsequently helped them a little bit more the remainder of the meet, because what happens is folks playing that Thursday pick four, you play the last couple at Belmont, and then you look at the first couple at Penn National, and then I think, well, you got the Penn National past performances, you're going to maybe look at the rest of the card. And I think after a couple of weeks when maybe people have looked at Penn National a couple of times, particularly if maybe you've had a little bit of success, you may then look at Penn National on another day. So I think that innovative two-track pick four that Penn National combined with Belmont for probably raised their profile a little bit, and certainly couldn't have hurt that average daily handle number going up. Wagering and purses were up also at Mountaineer. 2013 meet concluded with a 3% increase in all sources wagering and a 9% increase in purses. So some decent numbers coming out end of the year at some of these tracks. And that's good news for everybody. You know, these are smaller tracks, obviously, Penn National and Mountaineer. But when the smaller tracks are doing it, again, you know, when the bottom is kind of moving up, you would assume that everybody is going to benefit from that in some fashion or another. Did also want to tout you before we head to the first break. Nice photo blog on the Racing Form website. Go to drf.com and you go down left-hand side of the page, I believe. I have it linked on Equidaily as well, but left-hand side of the page, you can find the Barbara Livingston Daily Racing Form blog, photo blog. And I tout it because Barbara went out and visited recently with Rachel Alexander, 2009 Horse of the Year, Rachel Alexander, a favorite of a lot of folks. And interesting because Rachel Alexander had a life-threatening scare going back to February of last year after the birth of her second foal, and things were a little bit dicey for a while. Now Barbara Livingston has done a little bit of a follow-up, a lot of photos in there of Rachel Alexander, as well as reporting how she's doing currently. So if you're a Rachel Alexander fan, head over to the Racing Forum, look for the Barbara Livingston photo blog. All right, we will head to the first break. When we come back, John DeSilva of RacingWithBruno.com coming up a little later on. Dave Rodman of Laurel Park. All of that right after this.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB Television Network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Thursday morning. Thursday morning means a regular visit from John DeSilva of RacingWithBruno.com. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How's everybody today?
Pretty good. How was your New Year's?
New Year's was good, and I got to go out New Year's Eve and then enjoy some racing yesterday and hopefully start the year in a much better fashion.
Yeah, and I talked a little bit about at the top of the show about the racing yesterday, and I said I handicapped Aqueduct yesterday in the Handicappers Report, and I said that Teen Pauline is a horse that just seems to have not quite lived up to the promise. And it's hard to say that about a horse that's put $200,000 in the bank, but it just seems better than the record indicates. And I'm wondering if now maybe the head's screwed on right, and I'll be interested to see where they go next with her.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, you saw what she's done in the past. She's always had the potential. She just hasn't put it together. Now it looks like she's ready to go. Granted, it was a small field, but she did it the way she's supposed to. And for Todd, I mean, he loses authenticity. You know, he might have a nice replacement here.
Yeah, because again, she's a horse that had shown potential, and you thought with that turf race at Saratoga this year, you thought, well, maybe on the turf, and then just still couldn't quite. So a lot of times, though, they'll get that light bulb moment when they just get a confidence builder with a victory, and she looked pretty good yesterday, so we'll see where she goes next. All right, John, we'll take a look at some racing for this afternoon, but before we do that, it is snowy up here. What's it down in the New York area today?
Well, it is snowy as well. Right now, where I live on Long Island, we're expecting 6 to 10.
Ooh.
Not as much in New York City. I do think we will get the card through today. But since the governor's talking about closing some of the parkways for plowing after the disaster we had last year, I would be shocked if we run tomorrow if the expected snow does fall. So I expect a good track at Aqueduct today.
All right, and today we'll keep our fingers crossed, and tomorrow we'll really take a close look. We were saying on the Handicapper Sport pretty much the same thing, because this storm's supposed to continue all overnight. So if it's the same situation down there, tomorrow may be a little dicey. But we'll look at this afternoon's action. You've got a few for us today. A little later on, we'll take a look at the stakes action on Saturday as well. But today's fourth race is a maiden claimer, 12 5 tags, fillies and mares, obviously with the turn of the calendar. Now they're 4-year-olds and up. They're going a mile.
The first horse I like here is going to be Little Tiffy. Now, this is a horse who ran second last time out, first off for Greg Matisse. The horse showed a little better early speed, even though the horse was seventh early. Well, going a mile, drawing post number 2, the short run in the clubhouse turn, I expect Pablo Morales to get this horse into good tactical position, not on the lead, but should be pretty close to the pace, which I think what you need to do going a mile on the end of the track at Aqueduct. So with a ground-saving trip, I think Little Tiffy gets it done.
Very good. So Little Tiffy on top in race number 4. Race number 6 this afternoon. Maiden claimer. These are state-bred 3-year-olds, and they're going for a $35,000 tag. They're going to go 3/4 of a mile. This looks like an interesting little race. I'll be interested to see which direction you went.
Well, you had the morning line favorite, Executive Office, who ran second as a favorite, was claimed by Linda Rice from Clermont, but that was in September. Hasn't run since then, drops in class. You have to wonder a little bit. I would have been a little bit more confident if Linda had put her niece Taylor to ride this horse to try to get the weight off with that layoff, maybe to try to get a little bit better price, get a victory done. But since that didn't happen, I'm going to go with another horse first off the claim, and that's number 9, Mabry's Challenge. Now, Laura Perillo claimed this horse on November 22nd. The horse was favored that day, set the pace for retiring the third to go Metz, who eventually came back to win. This horse now adds blinkers, comes back for 35,000, has Morales, should be on the close to the pace, and should like a little bit of a moisture on the track as well.
And off the claim, owned now by Midwest Thoroughbreds. And I would tell people, and I have linked on Equidaily today, the page that has the 2013 stats for jockeys, trainers, owners, money won, races won. Go to the owners page of races won. Look at what Midwest did last year. I mean, the numbers these guys put up are insane. They lead in races won, but also the number of starts they have. They just tower over the second and third place owners in that category. Like I say, the numbers Midwest puts up, and obviously it's not just in New York, it's all across the country. But I would love to, these guys, these Midwest guys, it's a husband and wife team, but you don't read too much about them. I would love to read an interview with the guy and just try to find out how much time he spends watching races and making recommendations on horses to claim.
Well, they did have Jim Miller working for them at the beginning of last year, but then he went back to work for Hawthorne. I do know that Jamie Ness does a lot of work with them. I'm not sure if they ever hired the racing manager to replace Jim Miller, but between Ness and Roger Brueggemann and Tom Amis, and now with Laura Perillo, they have a big stable of trainers that run horses for them. They do run basically all over the Midwest and the East Coast.
Yeah, just incredible numbers they put up. All right, let's look out at the 8th race this afternoon down in Aqueduct. That one is an allowance event. Non-winners are one other than, again, fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. This time a quick 5.5.
And in the race like this, you would think speed's going to take it, but sometimes people overcompensate and speed will kill each other in front end. So I want a horse who might be making first move when they tire, and that's going to be number 4, Cape Cod Carol. The rising trainee has been in the money in the past few starts. Does like a little motion in the track, even though it's 1 for 8 winning, it's 6 for 8 in the money. Does like the end of track, 3 for 4 in the money. And I think this horse will be able to take advantage of the speeds, quitting in deep stretch, and get up under IRAD.
Very good. And we've been on the inner track now for a while. And speaking of, speed, what is your thoughts on the bias on the inner track over, the first few weeks we've been running?
The one thing I've noticed is some jockeys out there definitely don't know how to ride the inner track yet, especially some newbies. I mean, you got some others who, like your Ortiz, who definitely know what they're doing. You want to have speed, but don't go too crazy because you still have a long stretch, longer than I think than the main track. So you have to be very careful about that. You want to be able to take advantage. I mean, look what happened yesterday with Laura Carson coming off the pace of Tattoo Me. I mean, who expects that horse to win? But she was just able to take advantage of the speed, just collapsing at the end, and she got up under a huge price for the victory.
Yeah, and a guy I like is Lopez, who guns it down there at Aqueduct, and that certainly, speed is always dangerous, but over the inner track even more so. Although I think that the meet, but playing kind of fairly, but speed is very, very dangerous.
Well, the thing about Chucky is all those years riding at Monmouth Park, which is a similar type of track, which is a 1-mile track with the sharper turns, you have to know when to make the move. And Chucky had all that experience, uses that to a T on the end of the track.
Yeah, that's a great point. He comes over from Monmouth, which for years has been known as a speed track. All right, let's take a look out at a couple of the stakes races on Saturday. First up is going to be the Busanda 3-year-old fillies. It's that time of year. The 3-year-olds are stepping to the forefront now. $100,000 purse, mile and 70. Interesting field in here in that you have a couple of Pletcher horses. I think Fleet of Gold for Anthony Dutrow, number-wise, probably has to step it up. Wouldn't shock me if that one did, however. I pulled up some video from last time out, December 5th, right here at Aqueduct, looking at the David Jacobson drawing away horse. We're going to see Alpaca Fina get it done, a late run that will get this one up by half a length. So again, this was back on December 5th, Alpaca Fina getting it done in the 4th career start, which was the 3rd win of the career. So this is a pretty talented runner from Potent Connections, but I think it's a fun addition of the Busanda.
No doubt. I mean, you got the leading owner and the leading trainer in New York, having Alpaca Fina. Now, the horse does try a route for the first time and does try 2 turns, and for the first time was 3rd in the Sharp Cat Stakes at Belmont in October. The horse seems to have the right type of running style, bred to go the distance, and should like moisture in the track. But you just have to wonder, though, if this horse is ready class-wise. Now, you have George Weaver's horse, Flip Cup, who, even though he defeated State Breds, is a stakes winner and also stakes place up in Woodbine, has 2-turn experience, has the right type of running style, bred to go longer, and drawing the rail on the Reaching Mirage could be a huge advantage. But also at the same time, Todd Pletcher, you could never ignore. You got Bobby Flay's the owner, Fierce Boots, did run 4th behind Alpaca Fina, but maybe this is a horse who, as we saw when the horse broke its maiden at Parks, wants to go 2 turns, wants to go longer.
And then I would say also the other Pletcher, just throw a couple of bucks on Spanish Gold, because I think the odds will float up on that one, but it is always that potent angle of, the other half of the uncoupled entry. So Spanish Gold could be a little bit interesting in there as well. The Jerome, Again, it's that time of year, 3-year-olds, and New York made a bold and a nice move moving up the Jerome on the calendar, and they got an interesting field out of it. Grade 2 event, $200,000 purse, 1.70 miles. We kicked off the Triple Crown Trail in earnest yesterday down at Gulfstream with the Gulfstream Park Derby, but Saturday brings some more 3-year-old action, including this Jerome. As I noted, it's a kind of a fun field. I think Noble Moon off of the Maiden Breaker was interesting. In the Nashua, with a third-place finish, despite some trouble at the start, Cairo Prince was the winner that day, so Noble Moon is one to attract some attention. Mental Iceberg off of the Maiden Breaker went into the Remsen, perhaps got some education that day. Mental Iceberg, you wonder if this one isn't a little bit in over its head, but I just have a feeling this horse is maybe better than that last race. Classic Giac and Roll, who last time out ran third in the Marylander behind Joint Custody, who subsequently won last weekend down at Laurel. I, however, picked a little video up of Lawmaker, the race on November 28th, down at Laurel, shipped down there for Chad Brown, broke the maiden in the career debut. So we're going to watch Lawmaker here down at Laurel. Again, this was the career debut. We'll get up late to win by a length. And I think on the numbers, the buyer figures, Lawmaker might have to step it up. But a lot of times, John, horses do that in their second career start. That's where they show some nice improvement. So I think Lawmaker's kind of interesting. How'd you see the Jerome?
Well, Lawmaker's definitely interesting because how often do you see a horse come off the pace and win first time out going a mile? Now, obviously, Chad Brown knew this horse wasn't a sprinter, wanted to go long, and wanted to do what he did here. And it was very difficult getting maybe a mile maiden race that he was comfortable with, so that's why he sent the horse down to Laurel. Now, I think Chad has ideas that this is a horse probably be better going 2 turns on the inner track instead of sending down to Florida, which is why we're seeing this horse here with Jose Ortiz. I mean, it's a terrific race. I mean, it was an interesting pick that Dave Grenning tweeted out this morning of Classic Jack and Roll at Aqueduct with assistant trainer Juan Carlos Guerrero. And we all know what he did at Parks through the years before he was unceremoniously asked not to come back to Parks and to Pennsylvania Racing. So now his wife, Lisa Guerrero, is the trainer. And even though he's not allowed on the backstretch at Parks, he's allowed. He did not get suspended, so he's allowed to be in the backstretch here in New York. So Jock and Roll, who ran very well at the mud at Laurel, also tries the route for the first time. Gets, I think, a positive jockey switch, an experienced jockey in Alex Solis. Giacomo of a Stormbird mare. The route distance should not be a problem, so that one's going to be very interesting. Noble Moon, if it doesn't get bumped, could be very interesting as well. But another horse we're probably going to have to look at is Scotland. Tony Dutrow. How often do you see Tony Dutrow make a move putting a maiden in a race like this? But this horse did run second. Now it's a horse breed of Vicar mare. I mean, some people may think this horse may not be bred good enough, but when Dutrow makes a move like this and the horse has been working very well at Bay Hill, you have to pay attention to Scotland.
Yeah, that's a good point. Comes in as a maiden off a couple of starts that showed some promise. So, and it is Anthony Dutrow, so you certainly have to pay attention. But a couple of nice stakes down at Aqueduct on Saturday. John, been asking all the guests this week. Wrapped up 2013 on Tuesday night into Wednesday. So we're just kind of looking back. Highlights, lowlights from 2013, notable people, places, and events from the racing season for you last year.
Obvious lowlight is me being unemployed. I mean, and the way it happened. So to me, yes, it's something for myself, but to me that's the number one lowlight. Other than that, I mean, talk about highlights. Let's give credit to people like Castellano, to Jacobson, to Drawing Away, to the Ramseys for having record-breaking seasons. Wise Dan for what he did second year in a row. Let's give credit to Gary Stevens for the unbelievable year that he had, coming back. I mean, this time last year, I think he was just announcing he was going to be making a comeback. And now here you are talking about maybe an Eclipse Award winning finalist. I mean, it's been a great year of racing. We had some great 3-year-old fillies, like you mentioned earlier, who knows what's going to happen next year. They could progress. I mean, they could really be some nice superstars out there. I'm very curious to see what happens to the Eclipse Awards especially with the 2-year-olds. But also, the face of racing has changed between the Florida situation, Calder and Gulfstream, the loss of Hollywood Park, so now we're going to have California racing changing, and also with Chris Kay and Marty Panza coming into New York with some of the changes we're going to see here in New York. I think this is going to be a key year because, yes, it was disappointing. Saratoga 150 did not bring out the attendance and the handle they expected. So I think the pressure is on, Rodnell Workman and marketing to try to fix things because they said that they tried getting the locals to come up. And to me, that was a mistake because the locals will show up no matter what type of marketing you did. You need to concentrate on bringing in outside people. This is the year. If they are true and they are good, they have to do a better job and increasing attendance, increase the handle, and bring in outside people to make New York racing get back to where it was before.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, I think this admission increase is going to impact them more than they think. At first, I wasn't quite sure, but I have a feeling that this is maybe going to be a little bit of a shock to them. It's a small increase dollar-wise. Percentage-wise, it's pretty significant. Dollar-wise, it's not that much. I just have a feeling it's going to impact maybe more than they anticipate, but we'll see how that plays out at the Saratoga meet later this year. And you talked about Gary Stevens and Castellano, and I mentioned earlier on the Handicappers Report, I've been looking at some of the online published Eclipse ballots, and I've been surprised. Gary Stevens getting a little push for the Eclipse Award, which I find kind of surprising given the numbers Castellano put up.
It doesn't surprise because Gary Stevens at the end had the big name in the past, but coming back the way he did. The one thing Castellano, he did a very good job, but if I was to ask you right now, what is the one horse that put Castellano over the top?
Yeah.
I don't know if you could do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he was a day in and day out kind of guy putting up numbers, and of course Gary Stevens on the biggest day or the biggest weekend puts together the Distaff and the Breeders' Cup Classic off of that retirement, and so that was a great way to cap the year. And then gets a great one on opening day at Santa Anita as well, so caps off the year in that fashion. So certainly.
And the other thing about Castellano, which is no fault of his own, but some people are going to say he took advantage of not only Dominguez getting injured, but also Rosario getting injured. He was able to pick up the pieces at that point, so he was able to compile the numbers, but it came time for the big horse. I don't know if there was one horse that puts him over the top, unlike Stevens, who had a couple like that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see when they announce how that all shakes out. John, certainly appreciate the visit this morning. As always, good luck this afternoon. And again, we'll see what happens down in New York tomorrow vis-a-vis the weather. And we'll keep our fingers crossed also because, again, a couple of nice stakes planned for Saturday. But again, good luck this afternoon. We'll talk to you next week.
Definitely. Oh, one thing real quick. When you have Robin on, ask them if the Bug Boys that are in Maryland are coming up to New York, are they coming up here just on the off days or are they coming up full-time to New York?
Okay, I'll check that out. Which ones are scheduled?
Well, McCarthy and Kaiser were named on the overnight, and there might be one or two others as well, but I know those two definitely were named in New York so far.
Trevor rode yesterday in New York, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I will ask that. All right, John, thanks a lot.
Okay.
John DeSilva, racingwithbruno.com. When we come back, it will be Dave Rodman from Laurel Park. Stay tuned.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today. Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in here on this Thursday morning. We're still trying to make contact with Dave Rodman from Laurel Park. Laurel, as mentioned, nice string of stakes races this coming Saturday. When we get Dave, we'll touch on those a little bit. But just to give you a preview, second race on Saturday at Laurel's the Frank Whiteley $100,000 purse for 3-year-olds. It's that time of year. And the horse that's interesting here is Jesse the Marine, the talented horse based down there in the Mid-Atlantic, started the career at Delaware, last couple of starts at Laurel, won that Lewis 2 starts back at 35-1, then subsequently went off as a 6-5 favorite in the Marylander, where he was beat by Joint Custody, who again was so impressive this past weekend winning. So Jesse the Marine is going to attract a lot of attention in the Frank Whiteley on Saturday. A little after that, the Marshua, then the Nellie Morris, and then we will have the Fire Plug as well coming up at Laurel on Saturday. And I believe we, in fact, have Dave Rodman on the phone right now. Good morning, Dave.
Oh, good morning. Hi, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. And a cold one for you, I guess, right now.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of that, we'll get some thoughts on today's racing. But first, what's your weather? Has this snow reached down that far?
Not yet. I think it's going to hold off till they say that I check the weather maybe around 4 o'clock, I'm hoping. So we should get all or most of the races in without seeing any snowflakes, I hope. And then I guess I'll be like most people, darting out of here and taking cover because it's going to snow tonight, ice as well. So no racing tomorrow here in Maryland. So that's kind of good news. And then Saturday we'll run a course, but the high will not be above freezing from the forecast.
Okay. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed on Saturday because, again, we got those nice stakes races. We'll take a look at those a little bit later on. And speaking of no racing tomorrow, you're on the new January schedule, right?
Right. So Wednesday, Thursday, off Friday, racing Saturday. That's pretty much the deal for January, February, with the exception, of course, of some holiday Monday racing.
And with the last day of the year on Tuesday, you paid off the jackpot bet, the pick 5. That was a pretty nice little payoff for 50 cents. It was a couple of $1,000s, right? But and multiple winners, I'm assuming, but it was a mandatory payout.
It was, and it was kind of a chalk fest, except for kind of one oddball type horse, Chelsea Kaiser booting home a Brown Rice. But I guess everybody was thinking they're going to get a bigger payoff, and it's been very difficult, but somehow a chalky sequence on the mandatory payout day. But still a pretty good payout, 50 cents.
And with the mandatory payout, they poured some money into the pool, I saw, so that was nice as well.
Wow. Yeah, I think it was, $500,000, was it?
Yeah, it was up close to that, definitely. And I think prior to that, you were a little under 200. You had the $200,000 guarantee for the lone winner, but I think the pool itself was in the 150 to 200 range. So they jumped in with the mandatory payout. But that's gone now. We start anew with the new year. And Dave, I just wanted, before we touch on some racing for this afternoon, go back and just quickly look at the 2 races from the weekend, get your thoughts there. The Willa on the Move last Saturday. We're going to watch number 1, She's Ordained, get it done. And She's Ordained. Notable, She's Ordained, I guess, was a pretty nice claim and turns out to continue her winning ways in Stakes Company after having been claimed for, I think, a fairly modest price as well. But again, we're going to watch number 1, She's Ordained, get it done here in last Saturday's Willa on the Move. Your thoughts?
She is a win machine. She loves to win, that's for sure. And it was kind of a rematch with the horse that was on the lead in the race there. They kind of turned the tables on. She's Ordained turns the tables on that runner. with some trouble in her last start. And she did get in trouble again here around the far turn, had to steady and lost a bit of momentum, but that opening developed, and she was a willing winner down to the inside. It'll be interesting to see, as a 5-star Mama, who ran second, I believe, to see those two match up again down the line. And, you know, I'm thinking we might see that. I don't know, possibly Fritchie. I'm just thinking down the road.
Yeah, and just as you were saying that, we did see a little trouble on the turn. Makes the win all that more impressive, but sneaking up the rail here and coming under the wire, She's Ordained. Nice claim. Let's touch on the other stake, because I really want to get your opinion here. Joint Custody gets it done, and this will tie in. We'll get a little bit of a barometer maybe on the weekend race we'll talk about later with Jesse the Marine, but Joint Custody in the Maryland Juvenile Championship this past Saturday. We'll watch the stretch run. Number 4, Joint Custody, is going to get it done. And this horse is interesting to me, A, because we're always interested this time of year with the 2-year-olds now turned 3, and this is a horse now in 6 career starts, 4 wins, including a couple of nice stakes wins in the last 2, and we're seeing a pretty convincing victory here for Joint Custody. Your thoughts?
Trainer John Robb has had a tremendous year with his 2-year-olds, of course, now 3. But he had to be all smiles when It's a Bang, who was going to be the main rival for Joint Custody, scratched out of the race, leaving Joint Custody with the same scenario that he had in his most recent race before this, which was kind of lone lick and speed. And he's got some great early quarter gas speed. I mean, you know, it's not blazing, but it's certainly not runaway type speed, but a very quick speed, and then able to gear it down a little bit in the second quarter. And he's done a couple of times and then pull away in the stretch. And after that, it was all a battle for second here. So the horse has been well placed. How good is he? I don't know. I mean, I think he's a good horse. I don't think we would be looking at him maybe stretching out to 2 turns. Could be wrong.
I wonder at this time of year whether everybody hears the siren call along the 3-year-old trail, and I wonder if they will take a little shot to try to get a barometer with the horse. And on that front, I'll be interested to see where they go next with them. But certainly so far, very, very good. Dave, we'll take a look at some racing for this afternoon before we look out at the weekend. Which races you want to look at today?
Okay, we'll look at the 4th, 5th, and the 7th today on this getting colder by the moment day, Thursday at Laurel Park. Number 2, Rojo Perfecto. I'm going to make this gelding, I think, the best play of the day. 3rd and a 3rd and 2 starts with Tim Keefe. It comes out of a really sharp race won by Good Time Henny. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, the day before, Bye Bye Mistake came out of that race to win, but I'm just thinking that race is going to be key. Had some trouble in the race. He's by a stallion I couldn't find much about, Villa Vista, by Dynaformer. But out of a Dam by Arch, who had 3 wins career, sprint, route, and turf. So there's plenty of options here. And this guy stretches out to a mile here. I think he's just doesn't have blazing early speed, but he'll appreciate the extra distance and comes out of a really quick race with a maiden $25,000 level. Good Time Henny was very impressive.
All right.
The winner that beat the Rojo Perfecto.
And I'm right in your camp. I have never heard of Isla Vista either, the sire.
I looked it up last night, and I did. I really did. And I guess I was too late. One of the brain cells died. I can't remember what written it down, I guess.
Race number 5 this afternoon is a B-level claimer, 6,500 to 7,500 tags, 4-year-olds and up. They'll go a quick 5.5.
Well, Brad was a horse that I always kind of used to make fun of a little bit because he loved to run second, and I didn't think he was much. But trainer Juan Vasquez has kind of improved his style a little bit in the last 2. And, again, we have a situation where he comes out of a solid race. Time of the Sword was a class dropper. He's running back against Grace today, who beat him last time out. But Breaking Up, who finished 5th in that race, came back to win here yesterday. I mean, I'd look at Brad, I'd look at Grace. They come out of that race, the common race there, on December the 5th.
And Grace ran second by a head and followed that up nicely. So
followed it up, with Star Destiny, who was nobody was going to beat Star Destiny that day.
All right, so race number 5. Race number 7 this afternoon, another B-level claimer, this time tags 12 to 15,000. Fillies and mares, 4- and 5-year-olds and up, given the B condition there. They are going 7 furlongs.
Tracy Smile Acclaim from the Nest Barn, and double jumps in class with a $12,000 level. So this type of horse, off a 21-day rest and the confidence in the boost, he's 30%. in the winner's circle with this type of runner. With the claim, the short time away, and then the confident jump up in the claiming ranks here. I just think that they may have found a horse that's doing really good right now, and the percentages are all there. And when you siphon that down to just fillies and mares, first off the claim on the jump, it's a 38% strike in the winner's circle. So speed figures, there's your speed figure, 38%.
And I mentioned earlier, we were talking with John DeSilva, and we talked about a Midwest thoroughbred horse at Aqueduct this afternoon, and I touted people to go to Equibase and look up the 2013 owner statistics for wins and number of starts. The numbers these guys Midwest thoroughbreds put up are just mind-boggling. Obviously, they have outfits all across the country, but it's still the number of starts and the number of wins far outdistanced the second-place owner in that category in 2013 by just, well, as I say, mind-boggling.
Yeah. Now, I really do. A great handicapping angle here at Laurel, in my opinion, is during the winter months, a lot of the Midwest horses are kind of overbet here because of the stats and nest and just the prominence of the owner and the trainer. And because a lot of the better horses will go back down to Tampa, obviously, because they have turf racing down there. So you'll get a lot of horses that are overbet, but I think this is an instance here where this is worth a shot here, play on. For Midwest. Yeah,
and given the claim and the move up, that value may hold up a little bit. 5-2 on the morning line, and that may hold. Given, as I say, the move up, people may be a little dicey on jumping too deeply on board. We'll see.
Well, your viewers start betting a little more on them. You might go down.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll see how much power you've got to bring that price down.
Some days it works, some days it doesn't. The interesting card on Saturday includes a number of stakes races. I want to get some of your thoughts there. And again, it's that time of year. It's 3-year-olds. So kicking things off as far as stakes on Saturday is the Frank Whiteley. And I pulled up a little video here. I pulled up the December 7th Marylander. Again, joint custody is going to win the Marylander, but I wanted to show running second is Jesse the Marine. Jesse the Marine, the start before, had upset the field at 35-1, little stakes race. Subsequently, in this race, was the 6-5 favorite. Will wind up running second, does Jesse the Marine. But again, behind joint custody, who followed up with that race we saw earlier. So for me, in the Whiteley, Jesse the Marine looks kind of interesting in a short but compelling field.
Yeah, I was talking to Keith Crystal, our morning line maker, last night, who was doing the line for a few of these races, and I think he might line this cold odds on. I'm not sure in this spot. But that's the race, or one of the races, so many where joint custody uses that early 23 1/4, slows it down, had something left. There wasn't as much speed for Jesse the Marine in the Marylander that we watched him there to rally as he did in the previous race, the James F. Lewis, where there was a ton of speed, and it was a great setup. But on the positive, it was not only a great setup in the Lewis, the race prior, when Jesse the Marine hits the winner's circle by a neck in a driving finish, but he was rallying up what was kind of a not-so-good inside. So he's obviously the horse to beat here. I'm kind of interested in a little bit of a price, maybe in Starry Moon, the Bernie Houghton barn. I just happened to watch that race in relation to another horse here running in Maryland, and he looked visually impressive. The number didn't come back super strong, but it came back like an improving horse with the blinkers on.
Next up is the Marshua. This is 3-year-old fillies, and you mentioned Starry Moon, that one coming in from Penn National. Another one that interests me in the Marshua, also raced last time out of Penn National. That's the Dutrow horse, Gracer.
Yeah, and Gracer. I followed this filly, since Saratoga, when she was the good-looking winner, beat Potosi Silver. I believe got in trouble in that race and came back. But then she got kind of, I don't know what happened at Belmont. I just think in the Grade 2, something about the track, maybe she didn't like Belmont. She kind of couldn't gather her momentum underneath her hooves until very, very late. And she came rolling with a belated run there. And then adding the blinkers, unfortunately it wasn't a big price, but was, it was all over in the in stake at Penn National, that restricted stake there for PA breds. But she's interesting because her numbers are kind of all over the map. Blinkers or no blinkers. Don't know whether she's going to be able to handle this Laurel surface. We'll see, but I really like her in this spot.
Nellie Morris, a horse that interests me in here because I'm a huge Jonathan Shepard fan, and also because this one won for me on debut up at Saratoga 21-1 in 2012. He Done Me Wrong song. Interesting because Source looks like a turfer, actually, so why is it here today? Maybe there's just, this time of year, no other spots, but that just interests me there. But then the horse I think to beat in here, another Tony Dutrow horse, Welcome Guest.
Yeah, I think she's a little bit vulnerable in the spot, although I believe she was lined as a favorite, if I'm not mistaken, in here. I'm interested in the Rudy Rodriguez runner, Ferenzi Feeling here. Followed this filly since two. Well, I'm confusing my years now. Yeah, her 2-year-old. It was 2012. She only had one start last year as a 3-year-old. She'd been shelved and now moves in the Rudy Rodriguez's barn. I just like the way she won first out here at Laurel, and then she came back early in 2013 and was equally as impressive against the moderate fractions up front. Looking up her pedigree, I think she's really going to excel on the turf when they get her on there. But she won first out, going a distance, and she's coming off time in the Rudy's barn. I really like this filly as the upset Welcome Guest, in I guess a mild upset way.
And finally on the stake schedule on Saturday, the Fire Plug, $100,000, 6 furlongs. And the horse that's interesting here, of course, is Strapping Groom, who showed some promise up at Saratoga in the Grade 1 Forgo. That was on a sloppy sealed track, however. Subsequently, was spinning the wheels maybe just a little bit, but seemed to get back on track in the Gravesend last time. So Strapping Groom, very interesting for David Jacobson and drawing away.
Yeah, okay, carried 135 pounds in the fall high weight there, and thinking about that, it's I just love that race, the fall high weight.
Oh, me too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, I'm trying to think, when was the last time a horse carried 135 pounds in Maryland? And I'm thinking, Skip-Away, I think, carried 128 in Pimlico Special, But in any case, gets the 124 today. The question is, of course, will he like Laurel? And, I would assume that he will. It's a nice sweeping, 1.125-mile circumference track. Which I think will help him. He's going to be 6-5, I think, is what he's decided in the morning line. Can you beat him maybe for Smiley? He has a good tactical speed advantage in here. I really do. I mean, I think he's got a great speed advantage, pace advantage rather, over anybody in the field. Bandbox is coming off such a long time away from the races. And interesting, we've got Service for 10 here. Note the trainer is Emmanuel Girales, just in case you're wondering. He worked for Damon Dilla DeVico, so he's had a big hand in assisting the Dilla DeVico barn. So it's not kind of really a trainer change, so to speak, here. He's very familiar with the horse Service for 10, who won the Dave's Friend and was third behind Immortalized in the Frank J. DeFrancis Memorial Dash. A $25,000 claim who's paid dividends. Yeah,
nice. Dave, we've got to wrap it up, but I've been getting highlights from everybody, but we'll save your highlights for next week because I do want to get some of your thoughts and maybe even touch on Maryland racing because I was interested to see, and we'll touch on this next week, Trevor McCarthy, the leading jockey for the year down in Maryland. So
yeah, that was going to be kind of one of my highlights for the year, the deep apprentice colony here in Maryland that we've had. Strongest in some time that I can recall. There's no real standout apprentice. We'll touch on that next week, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get all the highlights next week. Got to wrap things up, but we absolutely appreciate the visit, and we had a lot of stakes action on Saturday to go over. So good luck this afternoon. Good luck to you and everybody down at Laurel on Saturday. Hope the weather holds up because a nice stakes card down there. Dave, thanks for the visit.
Okay, Seth. Happy New Year, everyone.
You too. Dave Rodman from Laurel Park. A little earlier, it was John De Silva from RacingWithBruno.com. Took a look at some of the action in New York and Maryland. Good stakes action this weekend. Again, the 3-year-olds are underway. The Derby Trail is out there. That's going to provide a lot of conversation here on Racing Across America, as it has already this week. We're here every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. A little earlier, it's the Handicappers Report. Jeff Carl and I were in this morning looking at Gulfstream and Aqueduct. Hopefully we gave you some good thoughts. Cash some tickets this afternoon. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.